Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. I'm Annalise Riles. I'm the Executive Director of the Northwestern Roberta Buffett Institute for Global Affairs and Associate Provost for Global Affairs here at Northwestern University. And today's topic is the recent demonstrations in Iran, which have come to be portrayed through one of the protesters' chants, "Women, Life, Freedom." And here to help us to understand these events and their histories and the issues and the hopes embodied in these words is Professor Elham Hoominfar, who is Assistant Professor of Instruction in the program in Global Health Studies here at Northwestern. We're extremely fortunate to have in Professor Hoominfar such an excellent guide to current events. Professor Hoominfar is a sociologist whose research focuses specifically on understanding social movements, and she has conducted extensive research in Iran. She herself holds a bachelor's and master's degree in sociology from Tehran University, although her PhD is from the United States, from Utah State University. I just want to say that we will have time for questions, and I encourage you to submit any questions through the chat box in the Zoom screen, and we will get to as many of them as we can. Dr. Hoominfar, thank you so much for being here today. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much for having me. I really appreciate your attention to the Iranian revolutionary movement. I would like to share with you guys our feeling. All of us Iranian are not feeling good these days because we can see brutally sense of people who are dying in Iran by security force, and this torture, rape, and killing every day affected badly on our moods. But your attention and your solidarity with people in Iran is really valuable for us. Thank you for this event, and I believe I can have a short talking about this historical movement in Iran. I try to organize my talking in 3 different episodes, and after that, I believe we have enough time for discussion or questions. So in the first episode, I tell you guys about the spark of this social movement, and in second episode, I explain historical background of this revolutionary movement in Iran, and in the third episode, I would like to share with you guys my understanding of this revolutionary movement as a sociologist. So first, I believe most of you guys know what's happening recently in Iran after killing of Gina Mahsa Amini, 22 years old Kurdish woman in Tehran by morality police. In the past, maybe that was difficult for us to explain what is morality police. And now most of you guys know what is this police and what they are doing with women, particularly women, regarding some things they defined as morality. So after that, I see most of mass media or in social events, people mention this is the first time Iranian women are in forefront of a social movement. But actually, this is for all of our social movement for justice, gender justice, environmental justice, political justice, ethnic justice. Women always were in front of social movements in Iran. But this is the first time their demands for gender justice and stopping violence against women is in forefront of a nationwide protest in Iran, and that is really important. So I told you guys this is a historical movement, and recently, because of the killing of Mahsa Amini, you can see this historical movement in your social media in United States or other countries. So regarding that background about this social movement, I would like to back to 43 years ago, 1979, when Iranian people wanted to have a revolution. That revolution was really a progressive revolution in the beginning. But unfortunately, 1979, Ayatollahs or Islamists took power in Iran. So they start to apply Shariat law and their perspective over society, particularly over women's bodies and lives. And after that time, I'm going to talk about what's happening historically for us in Iran as a woman. We can say we have gender apartheid in Iran. It doesn't mean before 1979, we didn't have gender discrimination or gender inequalities. We have a specific law for women that make this situation different than 1979. Even in 21st century, in United States, you faced with a lots of gender discrimination. But what is gender apartheid? And I would like to talk about that in this episode, my second episode about my talk. So 1979, we have a revolution. And opposite of some things that Ayatollah Khomeini said when he was outside of Iran, when he back to Iran and took power, he and his followers wanted Islamic Republic for Iran. So, of course, Iranian society in the first step didn't accept that. They suppressed society brutally. You can see some of their behavior recently, but it has a historical background, actually. That was only 3 weeks after revolution that we have a big or massive protest in the street by women. Women organized a massive protest street to say we didn't have a revolution to go backwards. So the first protest against Islamic states organized by Iranian women, actually. So we have a lots of good slogan in that time. I'm talking about 43 years ago, the beginning of Islamic Republic of Iran. For example, they mentioned we didn't have a revolution to go backwards. That was a main slogan for them, because Ayatollah Khomeini in that time asked women to have hijab and other rules for their life. We will talk about that later. Also, they mentioned equality, equality, neither chador, neither headscarves. Islamists try after revolution to create a discourse. That discourse still is in Middle East. For example, they believe if you are talking about freedom, gender justice, this is a Western concept or perspective. It doesn't come from our, history or society. One of the amazing women slogan in that protest was freedom is universal, neither Eastern nor Western. And maybe it helped us to understand why Iranian society today use this slogan from Kurdish partisan in Turkey and Syria and repeat that in Iran in protest. Woman, life, freedom. It means if society cannot be freed, if women are not freed. And I believe today Iranian women and men can understand that better than other nations. So in that time, we have that amazing protest in a street. But unfortunately, that protest was suppressed by Islamic State because they have enough power. But another problem back to Iranian society in that time. Actually, those protests haven't received enough attention of society and social and political groups. That was only one of political groups in Iran, a kind of Marxist group, came to a street and protect women, because when women went to streets, many media told us that was more about 200,000 women on the street 3 weeks after revolution, to say they don't want Sharia law governs their lives, actually. So those people, when those men, maybe it's better because most of those women belong to different social or political groups. They went to a street to protect women because Islamists attack to women, beat women. But in general, women didn't receive enough attention of society, opposite of some things you can see today in streets in Iran. Then took almost 2 years for Islamic State to apply Islamic Sharia law over women's lives. And another reason for their success was war between Iran and Iraq. And that is really good to know how much those wars can be opposite of civil society in our area. I believe that was not only problem for us inside of Iran, that was problem for many progressive groups in Iraq too. But anyway, after 2 years, they could apply hijab, compulsory hijab, because some of Iranian people traditionally believe to some things like hijab, but not some things they define for us. That is totally different story. And other Islamic laws over our bodies and life. And after that, we believe we have some things that called gender apartheid, and put us in a situation we can say we are officially, according to law, second-class citizen in Iran. So I would like to mention some of them to know how they apply these misogynist policies for our lives. First, after hijab, they have gender segregation. It means most of public places divided between women and men. We went to different schools, boys and girls. And also for works, recreational places, and transportation. And you can see how much this is really important, because this segregation actually push us to be in sidelines, marginalized women. Most of place we have for public libraries or for pools or other things, the place has low qualities belong to women. And also that was segregation. This is some things that marginalize us from many public places. Also, many employers didn't hire women because that was a cost for them if they needed to have different places for women. So one of their work was that in elementary school, secondary school, or high school, in all of their classrooms, we were with hijab, we were small girls, and they divided us, Iranian women, to 2 groups, good girls, bad girls. If you follow their ideological perspective, you were good girls. If not, you were bad girls. And I'm so glad today we can see lots of bad girls in the streets of Tehran or other cities in Iran. So regarding policy, I would like to mention some other policies they have for our lives to understand what is the meaning of gender apartheid in Iran. So Sharia law govern our families and marriage too. For example, because I would like how much this systematic discrimination applied over our lives. So we have unequal right officially for marriage, for divorce, custody of children, and all birth certifications are in the name of fathers, not mother. So what's happening, actually, women don't have official rights for their children. Child marriage is legal in Iran. So we have, as a social problem, many marriage for girls in 9 years old or 10 years old. And just think, having an abuser father is a social problem in all societies. Just think those people, how much can, use of this position for their children. Because if a father has a permission, give a permission, their children can have marriage when they are 9 or 10 years old. Women's choice of job, place of residence, and ability to leave the country depends entirely on their husband's permission. It means if I want to go to a trip outside of Iran or select a job, my husband should give me, permission. If I want to get passport or to airport to have a flight, I should show that official permission to the officer to give me a passport or let me leave Iran. So you can see how much this is, opposite of our dignity as a woman. So we can say after 1979, actually, women have become second-class citizens. Even if you can say, some of my non-Iranian friends always ask me, so if you don't want to hijab, what's happening? You can see what's happening in Iran. They are killing people. But in that time, if my mother wanted to, let me to be myself, I don't have permission to go to a school or find a job. Many women got fired actually after that law because they don't want to follow some things they want. And morality police actually is one tool for them. You can see in a street. We have another guards in the all public or private buildings. For example, if I want to go to private or public university, that was a guard here, check us. If we have makeup or hijab, they don't like this. We didn't have this permission to go to that building. So this is really odd in Iranian culture, and particularly for young people, because women try to try to change that situation. One of their policy for this issue, I would like to share with you guys, one of my research here. One of the Iranian women resistance maybe was going to university for higher education. So here you can see in 1976, the beginning before revolution actually, the women's labor force participation rate was 12.9, but women literacy rate was 35. Here, after revolution, 1986, women literacy rate increased to 52, but women's labor force participation reduced actually to 8.2. During these years, one of women method to struggle with this system was going to university and or have a better education. I believe this is unique in the world. This gap between women's literacy rate and women labor force participation in the Iran. In 2016, 82.5% of Iranian women are educated. Okay, but in this time, as you can see, the women's labor force participation is 14.9. This gap is showing how much Islamic State try to to turn women to their house actually. Today, in 2022, this women's literacy rate is almost 19, and this labor force participation rate is 16. So they use everything to marginalize women regarding everything, particularly labor market. That is really important because now the data is telling us women are in poverty more than men in Iran. And this is another reason for women to have enough, reasons to be in the street. And I would like that hijab and gender segregation has close relationship to economic situation that women have in Iran recently. So women lost many of their rights that they, received them according to their social movements during 200 years. 200 years ago, we have constitutional revolution in Iran. That was a progressive revolution. And after that, we can say we have modern women movements. And in 1979, they could reach to a better situation. But unfortunately, after 1979, they lost lots of rights. I would like to just mention the women concept. We should be so cautious about this concept, this general concept, because absolutely women who belong to powerful states family or believe to that ideological system had better situation than other women. For example, some research tell us working class women had more difficulties and problems after 1979. But in general, they are the main loser of 1979. But something is really important to know. During these 43 years, women in Iran were not silent victims. they did a lot to change this situation. We have many protests. I could remember every March 8th, we went to a street to have protest against that system. We wanted to have, justice regarding gender issues. Most of our feminist sisters were in different villages or cities in different parts of Iran. They try to talk with people, improve their knowledge or awareness regarding gender issues. We have many workshops or, campaign for men, women in rural area, urban area. Our sisters in Kurdish area were really active. And also, the history of Iranian Turks in Azerbaijan was really strong regarding women movement. So, as I mentioned in the beginning, the first protest against Ayatollahs in Iran organized by women in March 8th of 1979, the International Day for Women. And every year we have protests in Iran in different ways. Also, Iranian women use covert and overt tools to stop this gender discrimination. If they could, they go to courts and try to change legal system. If they could do some things in university, in different, universities in north of Iran, south of Iran, east of Iran, all places. And you can see this protest happen in all parts of Iran, not only in capital that historically, most of official organizations are there. Also, Iranian women are active in different social movements. Recently, I worked about environmental movement in Iran, and I was so surprised when I go to different panels or conference and show some video and photos. When American asked me, because my study is a comparative study between Iran and United States, and they said, why Iranian women are in front line of all protests for environmental movement? Also for ethnic justice. Iran is a multicultural society, most of countries, I believe. And in Middle East, for example, Turkey, Iraq, Syria, or in East, Afghanistan, Pakistan. And that is really important because after nation state, we have many ethnic separations. For ethnic justice, you can see the voice of women very well. For environment, for political justice, maybe some of you guys remember in 2009, we have Green Movement that was a political movement. And the symbol of that movement was a woman, Neda Agha Sultan. She was killed brutally in the street. And women had another symbolic actions from the beginning of Islamic Republic of Iran. One of those women is Huma Darabi. She was professor in university and she was a doctor. Because after hijab become mandatory or some things, push women to follow those moralities code, she didn't accept hijab, and so she was fired. But she set herself on fire as a protest. Unfortunately, she passed away. But this symbolic action is a method to know this protest is not new in Iran. And another symbolic actions of women is the Girls of Enqilab Street. That was about 3 years ago that performance actually started by Vida Mowahed. She went to a street in Enqilab Street, main street in Tehran, front of University of Tehran. She take off her hijab, remove her hijab and move that, but she was silent. No word, no protest. And this action was interesting for many women. They took this action and repeat this in different parts of Iran. And you can see, still this is in a street, but in different performance, women remove their hijab, burn that as a protest. So let's go to third episode of my talking. I would like to say, where is this revolutionary movement going? Because this is a women revolution, but it doesn't want to just focus on gender issues, actually. Today, we have national, international attention, and women demands on hijab and is really clear. And women life freedom, the main slogan for that is telling to society some things about gender should change, but they don't want to stop actually morality police. Because of that, I call that revolutionary movement. Some things women and men in Iran want is a change of system. They want a revolution. In all of their protests, they mentioned that. Don't call that protest. It is a revolution. Or one of their slogan is really good. I like that. This is a woman's revolution. It has targeted the whole system. But why ethnic groups, different ethnic groups, Baluch, Kurd women and men, and all men actually from different social groups joined to this social movement? The reason is actually, historically, Iranian regime has been inefficient in different fields. Recently, about 2 decades in Iran, we have different social protests for economic issues. Today, Iran has taken resource of gas in the world and lots of oil and natural resource, but 1 of every 3 Iranian people lives under poverty line. And women are in poverty more than men. Feminization of poverty is a big problem for us. As I showed to you guys, the rate of their activity in labor market is really low, unique in the world. However, they have higher education, and in some years, 65% of students are women. So their knowledge, their awareness increased, but their position is low in Iran. There are second-class citizens, some things that they absolutely cannot understand. The Islamic regime. And we have a lots of environmental movements. In one of them, actually, the government killed people just because they want to protect their water, the resource, that's all. We have many protests for ethnic justice, for other social problems, political issues. This is a dictatorship system. This is some things that want to decide for our lifestyle, for women and men. Of course, many men join to this protest because they are suffering from economic issues or other problems we have in Iran. So, women revolution has targeted the entire structure of discrimination in Iran. Because of that, many different social groups joined to this social movement. And also, I believe all Iranian people now knows if they want to have a free society, they should pay attention to gender justice. And I hope, because we know there are lots of threats for this movement, like all movements in the world, counter movement or counter revolution is a good concept for us as sociologists to work about that. But if people just focus on this concept, I believe the future would be changed, not only for Iran, for a whole area, because West of Asia, North of Africa is a place we call that patriarchy belt. And we have a strong patriarchy system in that area. So I would like to reach to a conclusion and have time for discussion and question. So I would like to say, this is really a progressive movement. And some things is important to share. All of us are excited and in the same time so sad, because Islamic State kills or torture people brutally. And even recently, they show their tortures on TV because they want people scared of that. Many new generation, girls and boys, are talking about some things that is really opposite of their fundamentalist perspective. We are watching every day many videos from Iran that really is heartbreaking, and sometimes I cannot breathe. But I'm optimistic about that. I believe already revolution started, and we will have good alternatives regarding gender justice, ethnic justice, and other things. I hope working class have opportunity to join this better, particularly because recently we have some strikes in Iran. And thank you very much for your time and attention to revolutionary movement in Iran.
Oh, Elham, thank you so much. This is just so helpful, and you've given us context that goes far beyond what the headlines share in the news and so forth. So this is very valuable to have your personal and expert knowledge. We've got a number of questions, and please feel free to ask more in the chat. Maybe I'll just dig in if that's okay. So maybe picking up where you just ended, we've got a couple of questions asking for your vision, your understanding, your thoughts about what is likely to happen next, and what the implications of that will be for gender justice in Iran going forward. What do you think?
Yeah, I believe revolution already started, because in the society that after 1979, when many women, thousands of women were in the street and want to stop that Islamic law over their bodies, many political groups and families believe this is not priority. But today, actually, many men are in the streets, they are killing brutally. The government killed them so bad. Some of the videos is really catastrophe. But they start and repeat that, woman life freedom. I believe this is really good voice for us. I really enjoy that. I believe recently because of, I told you guys already, Iranian women did a lot historically during these 43 years. We were not the silent victims. The society, the knowledge, the awareness about justice increased, not only for gender, even for ethnic issues. And about nation state, and some things happen in Middle East. For example, in Turkey, Iran, Iraq, and Syria, we have Kurdish people under suppression. But now people are with them and support, and I think they are really organized to even organize this revolution for whole Iran. I believe the revolution already happened because I believe the awareness of people for gender justice increased. Yes, I'm optimistic, and I believe in the future. We don't need to teach some things that already people have. This is the first step for, gender justice, actually. And these young men, I could remember when I was in University of Tehran as a sociologist, as a feminist, we had really difficulties to talk with our friends, men friends, regarding some things. They receive lots of benefit from Islamic State as a man, every rights was inequality. But now Iranian young men, are in the street, government killed them. They are paying cost for change. And because of that, I believe already revolution started. So I'm optimistic regarding gender justice. And I believe as an intersectional feminist, we cannot be free if Kurds, Baluch, Turk, or Arabs in Iran, because I came from dominant group, Persian social group. We cannot be free as women if they are not free. And I think this movement already reached to this conclusion. So I don't know if...
That's very interesting. So then related question, maybe continuing from that, how do you think that sanctions play into this for better or worse? And should the US impose more sanctions on Iran over this?
Yeah, this is a big discussion we have. In general, I opposite of sanction and wars, because I believe both of these actions is opposite for our civil society. But recently, Iranian people, some of them are talking about targeted sanction. It means just politicians, men, and particularly, actually, they are talking about Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps. This is a specific army in Iran, control oil, gas, water. Even when I was working for my environmental movement in Iran, some environmentalists wanted sanction against this specific group because they make a lot of dam water transfer projects and bring environmental degradation for Iran. So this is really complicated. I cannot accept war or sanction happen for people because people inside of Iran have enough difficulties. But if some things like sanction can control that specific, group in power, I think that is not bad idea, but this is really difficult to recognize because this is many years we have sanctioned for Iran, and it seems the government is going to be more rich, and they have gas and oil. They have their own business with China, Russia. Sanction works for, apartheid regime in South Africa because United States in that time support that government. But I don't know because Iranian government doesn't have any connection with United States now. But the European countries, historically, their government actually in many cases support Iranian government. Still, Switzerland, I think last night said they don't want any sanction against Iranian government because of their economic benefit they have. So this is really complicated issue. Maybe we need to have, more meetings to talk about that. I believe maybe in the future, because Iranian government, Islamic Republic, kills people brutally, and I believe in the future we will have more catastrophe like that. And some of people recently even thinking about the war. That is really another problem for us. I don't know. I believe it didn't work so far, but any kind of sanction that targets Iranian government people, because most of their family are citizens in European countries. My father couldn't come to United States to visit me, because of political issue, I cannot go to Iran. And this is 6 years, I couldn't meet them because Iranian, people couldn't get American visa to come here, but most of their children are citizens in United States. This is really odd for us. So in general, any sanction or war or anything that hurt Iranian people, I believe is not helpful. But if it's target Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps or any politicians, maybe it's helpful.
So then maybe following on that, another question is, if sanctions are not the answer, what kind of pressure would be effective, and which countries in particular do you think are most critical actors in pressuring for change? Is it the European Union? I mean, who do you think, is it the US? I mean, who's likely to be impactful here?
Yeah, this is 43 years Iranian government received a lots of benefit from Western countries. This is obviously for all of us. They pay attention to their economic contracts with Iranian government more than human rights. So maybe civil societies here can push their government to pay attention to, this revolutionary movement in Iran. But maybe we should make connection between grassroots movements in Iran and here. And also, I receive a lots of questions of my American friends, what we can do. Maybe just hear this voice and repeat that and join to us for any protest or other things outside of Iran. And it can be a pressure on Iranian government to stop, this mass killing actually. So this is some things that sometimes we should think and find solution, because case of Iran is really different. Maybe two civil society can help to Iranian people better in Russia and China too. But those countries have a kind of dictatorship system. And so in Western countries, I believe once, and another threat we have for this revolutionary, I believe, I don't know how I can frame that issue. Some of the help actually is a kind of counter-revolution. People inside of Iran should decide for themselves, not people in power in United States or Western countries. So another help maybe can be that. Don't just vote some people as leaders outside of Iran, let people in Iran, we have good, under bad suppression, we have good people can organize themselves. This is almost 2 months they are in the streets, we have good unions or, organization for teachers, and they are really progressive. If we don't have war, or Western I don't know, some things they want to organize themselves according to their own benefits is another problem for us. So I believe maybe we should connection or find solution to make this connection between grassroots movement in United States or Western countries and people inside of Iran.
Interesting. So another question is, as you think about this revolution, how receptive do you think the Iranian people would be to a secular government that does not incorporate Islamic doctrine as law? And maybe related to that, another question was about a factual point that you made about the March 8th, 1979 protest and the fact that there were Marxists involved. And who are these Marxists and why were they supporting women? And can you explain that a little bit?
Actually, they have to do that because this is their perspective for, they believe Marxist perspective would like to have freedom for everybody, huh? But actually, some of them didn't support women. They support Islamic State in that time. A few of them were in women protests. In general, I believe Iran has more potential than other countries in Middle East to have a secular system now. And actually people want this. If you look at to their protest or slogan, they never ever use any Islamic words. And I think because of that, I believe this is not only for Iran, this is for whole area, this is for all Middle East, for Muslim countries. There are children of Muslims and want to have new interpretation of Islam. I believe this secularism needs for all countries in that area and is started by Iran because 1979 we have Islamic State on power and they see what is the result. Actually, this is the history of religion. When they are in power, use religions for their own benefits, and Iranian people now understand that better than others. So yes, I believe if they be successful, we will have a secular system in the future. I'm sure about that. But I said we are not. I'm not worried about some things regarding the religion or other things is happening here because that was many years ago. We reached to this conclusion that Iran is ready for secularism. And you can see that just right now. But we, as a sociologist, work about Iran, we know about that. The only things I'm really a little worried is about foreign interference or, some things that change because this is grassroots movement. And this is really progressive. And I'm optimistic still after all this, brutally video we saw inside of Iran.
So one of the things that you talked about that was really made an impact, a big impression on me, was sort of the larger regional geopolitics and its relationship to this, the Iraq-Iran war, its impact on women's status within Iran, but also you talked about the regional implications that this revolution could have for other countries outside. I mean, could you say any more? So how do you think that other countries in the region might be looking at this now? And do you think that that could have any impact on how the developments unfold?
Yeah, so see, recently all governments, all states are silent in that area regarding this movement, but we receive good solidarity from people in Turkey, Arab countries. That is really good. We don't need, a state's support, just people. And, this slogan, woman, life, freedom, came from Turkey and Syria with Kurdish partisans, actually. They use this to say, if you want a society to be free, the first women should be free in society. That is really progressive slogan. And I believe in this time, we are talking about some problems in our area that is common for other people too. For example, when we are talking about ethnic injustice inside of Iran, this is the same problem for Turkey, for Iraq, for Syria, for Afghanistan even. And, they have a lots of ethnic group, and nation state, I believe, cannot answer to that very well. Maybe people are going to create new things, and other people in, those countries can follow that. regarding gender issues too, because the problem for us inside of Iran is the same in some cases for Iraq, Turkey even, or with this, recent president in Turkey and other countries too. So I believe why it can, have connection with other countries, because we have the same problems, the same problems, and some borders in our area actually is not the border of people. For example, Kurdish people divided in 4 countries, Iran, Turkey, Iraq, Syria, and always they were under suppression because they were minority. Their mother language or other ethnic or cultural elements were not in power actually. So now I think people are listening to them. Their role in this movement is really important. Kurdish people outside of Iran and inside of Iran. Mahsa Amini is a Kurdish woman actually, and the reaction of their family was really good to make solidarity with other Iranians. That family was really, their action was really good if somebody wants to study as a case study. So I believe its impact on rest of Middle East, because Iran has a historical role for developing of religion and Islam in that area. And now these people are going to have new interpretation of Islam and other issues like ethnic issues. And so because of that, I believe you can hear the voice of future of Middle East, not only Iran, in this protest.
That's interesting. And so does that indicate to you at all that governments in the region would have an interest in suppressing these demonstrations because they're afraid of the impact?
Yeah, the reaction is really good because, most of them have conflicts with Iranian state. But actually, this is a grassroots movement, and it's targeted some things that is a threat for them. Gender issues is really big issues for those countries. Ethnic issue is another problem. And so far, this movement can keep itself as an independent movement. So yes, this is a threat for other states too, but I believe they are in a dilemma because they have conflicts with Islamic State in Iran and also with any progressive movements in Middle East. Yeah. And I believe, that was something super interesting for me because still I'm working about this social movement, take some notes and watch all videos or news about this revolutionary movement. A few weeks ago, Baluch women in Iran, I'm talking about intersectionality, regarding their gender, religion, and ethnic issue, there are minority in Iran. And they submitted a statement to say, and after that, they mentioned that again, they don't follow, because Baluch people in Iran are Sunni, and the dominant state in Iran is Shia, and so they mentioned in their statement, they are going to join with their sisters, other ethnic group women in Iran, to build the first woman revolution in the history. Then they mentioned they don't follow their religious leader. That guy, he's minority, and of course we support his right, but not his belief. He didn't talk about women's rights, and in the past, he supported Taliban in Afghanistan. So these women, Sunni Baluch women, are going to join with their other, sisters, not their religious leader. That is really good point to understand how much this revolution in Iran is really progressive. They know about this intersectionality, but they want to join to each other to create a revolution that they believe this is a unique revolution in the world. So because of that, I believe this is really progressive revolutionary movement.
So another question I have for you is about the role of international organizations and international human rights law. I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, but I believe that the very first World Conference on Women at the United Nations was co-chaired by an Iranian woman, the sister of the Shah. Mm-hmm. But so there's a long history of Iran's activism in international organizations around women's issues. Do you think that the United Nations or some of the United Nations apparatus focusing on women's human rights has a role to play here?
Of course, any voice can be helpful. But historically, I worked with United Nations when I was in Iran. I was their counselor, actually. But in many cases, they don't want to join to any grassroots movement. They try to just be connect with states in all countries. So I don't know how much this can be helpful. But the sister of Shah, I believe we have some other research in Iran to show how much after 1952, 53, we called that American coup d'etat in Iran, that Shah bad, because before revolution we didn't have a democratic system. We just have something better than this catastrophe. So in that time, he actually did an action in Iran that most grassroots organizations stopped. And one reason that Islamists could be successful was that civil society was weak, actually. So sister of Shah, daughter of president, there are not grassroots movement. And we had already, and recently, if you look at the news, every day I'm so surprised. I'm a sociologist, work about women movement in Iran, and sometimes I'm really surprised. Every day they are arrested a feminist activist inside of Iran that even I didn't hear her name. So we have a lots of agencies inside of Iran, and I believe this movement will take more time and organize them, and I hope to hear good news soon. But I don't know how this organization can, even a few months ago, I had a lecture in United Nations regarding, I'm in NGOs work about gender issues in the United States, and I talk about this gender apartheid in Iran and how, we, for environmental issues, we can have ecofeminist perspective or blah, 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 but they don't know how they can help, because we were inside of Iran when we wanted to handle some things, ask them to help some feminist activists, and they mentioned they cannot work with them because the government are so sensitive about these names. So I hope they have our voice. Everybody keep the Iranian voice. I appreciate that, but I don't know if it has functions or not.
So we have another really interesting question, I think, which is that, one of the things that's unique about a women's revolution is that women usually, in many cases, live in households with men in their household, whether it's their husband or their father or their brother. So how do you think this is playing inside people's households? Do you think that there's a lot of struggle going on between fathers and daughters?
Yeah, I believe men in Iran are going to support women very well. Historically, they did. I could remember in some cases in a street when I have, some fights with morality police, my ex-boyfriend or my brother were with me, and they had this problem with them. And 1 year ago, even they shoot, the security police, morality police, to a husband because he wanted to protect his wife. And women movement, women revolution doesn't mean this is only for women. I believe it's talking about some things that has history more than Islamic Republic in Iran. I'm talking about patriarchy system. So we don't have any conflicts. We are receive a lots of support, actually. And I believe Iranian society is regarding this issue is really progressive, or maybe I'm optimistic, I don't know. But men in streets use this slogan, and if you look at the people were killed during this protest, many of them are men, and they repeat this slogan: "Woman, life, freedom."
Fascinating. So maybe as a last question, Professor Hoominfar, and I know that you addressed this a little bit already, but so many people are asking in the chat, so I'm going to ask it again. People are asking, what can we do? Is there anything beyond go to protests, beyond what else can we do as individuals to support this movement? What do you think?
That is really good. I think in the beginning of the revolution, some Iranian professor in United States and Europe and Canada published a statement. If you search that, you can see they said open letter or something like Voice of Feminist Movement in Iran. They mentioned don't, reduce our problem as cultural issues, because historically Iranian feminists talk about this problem, gender apartheid, and just our sisters or brothers in Western countries, reduce that as cultural issues in Iran. Just pay attention to power relations around of, gender discrimination in Middle East, particularly in Iran. And just, I really, this is a good question, and I don't know what we can do. Even I, as Iranian, woman outside of Iran, I'm not sure. Maybe if you ask me for a lecture, I'm ready. I'm published some things. I'm going to publish more and more to increase the knowledge about some things happening in Iran. But regarding efficient, maybe good actions, this is still my question. Maybe we should just keep their voice loudly in the world, and then listen to them to see what they want. Some of Americans ask me, we are ready to pay if there is organization to support that. I know we still don't have some things like that. So yeah, I really don't know. Maybe you guys can help us to know what we can.
I mean, perhaps one thing also is to just keep pressuring the global media to keep the attention, to not lose the focus on this.
Yeah, because Islamic State is killing brutally and they don't stop. They have a lots of economic benefit in this situation. So maybe a pressure on, international organization to push them to at least don't kill people, I don't know. And we have a lots of people in prison now. So maybe another international pressure to, don't torture them. They torture people and bring them on the TV and show, yeah.
Absolutely. Well, Elham, we're so happy that you're part of our community, and we really appreciate you taking the time to educate us. And I think, I know this took a lot of intentionality for you to do this, and so we're very grateful, and we hope to continue to support you. And if anyone has comments or questions, please feel free to address them to us at Buffett, and we can share them with Professor Hoominfar. And so looking forward to next steps. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you very much, guys.
Bye.